All right. Hello, everyone. So, as promised in my latest short video, which was kind of meant more as an announcement than a short video, I have decided to go live again tonight because my previous video didn't save properly to YouTube. So, everything that I covered past the first 30 seconds didn't work. So let's try this again, and I am recording my screen this time so that if it doesn't work again, I still have the ability to upload the video. So there's a couple of articles that I found that really interested me, and I want to go over them. The first part of the live the other day was just me testing out the mobile app that I had found. And then the other day, I actually just randomly tried my mobile app on YouTube and the thing loaded. So that was really exciting. So yeah, that's that. So I'm hoping that the lighting is okay. I don't film at night very often, so it's hard for me to tell whether this actually looks okay or not. But if it does, just let me know either in the live chat or down in the comments. So yeah, I'm not really sure how well this is gonna do, but yeah, so I'm using my gimbal right now and I just have to get it in the right spot. And so these articles, I'm going to go back afterwards and put them into the description because it's easier to do on the laptop. But if you go, well, I guess you can because I made it unlisted. But if you guys noticed from the previous ones, those are the two articles I'm covering if you had a chance to look at them. So I will put them in the description again just so that you're able to read through them afterwards. But okay, so first of all, before I get going here, so my area right now is actually under severe weather warnings, and we've actually had a few major storms that have come through recently, and right now I'm not actually feeling all of that terrible, but I noticed this morning on my weather app that the pressure is already quite low already. So I'm guessing that the reason maybe why is because the pressure isn't dropping quite as significantly maybe as the last storm. Because I find it's when the barometric pressure drops, that's when I start to feel the worst. I mean, I'm still tired and all of that, but it's not like I'm in an incredible amount of pain. I was the other day for a little bit, but it's nothing like it was with the storm that came through, like, I think it was a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a week and a half ago. I don't even remember. The time is really blending right now, to be honest. Okay. So, let me just find these articles on here. And let's get going. So, I will mark also in the chapters kind of where the video is divided so that if you guys want to only look at one particular article, then you can do that. Or if you want to hear my opinions on both, you can also do that. But I really like having the chapters in there because it allows you, when you're searching through a video and you find something and you're particularly interested in something, that you can just skip and watch what you want. That's what I love about it. Like when I'm learning quickly too, like how to do different types of YouTube videos and all of that, it's nice being able to have the option of the chapter. So I'm gonna start doing that all the time from now on. I just have to wait until the video is loaded and I can actually watch through it in order to actually look that up and get that in the description. So it might take a bit, but I will plan on doing that in the description again. Okay, so the first article that I found is called 25 Surprising Physical Symptoms of Migraines. So, for those of you who are unaware, and I just realized the reason why I might not have anyone right now is because I didn't share this to my social media platforms. Hold on. I will change that. Okay, got that one. Now, copy. And I'm so bad at doing social media, guys. It's not even funny. Oh dear goodness, can't even write. Okay. Okay. Now I'm gonna pin this and notify. Pin post. We'll do it for 24 hours because I'll probably just repost the actual video when I get this out. Okay. And publish. And now I'm going to try to get to my Facebook page. See here. All right. Hello. So if you're just joining me, I am just currently sharing this live to YouTube, or not to YouTube, to all of my other social media platforms. So if you guys want to just hang on for a second, I'll just get into the content pretty quick here. I just want to share this out because I completely forgot about it. Could have done that right away, but I'm tired and forgot to share this out. So just hang on for a second. YouTube. And post. Okay. That should be good. All right. So now we'll get into the actual content of the article. Sorry, guys. I will also mark that in the actual timeline, as I said in the chapter. So if you want to skip over that, because I was basically just typing on my computer, I'm sorry. I should have done that right off the start. But, you know, technical problems. And this is what happens when I'm tired and not thinking clearly. Okay. So, 25 surprising physical symptoms of migraine. So, a lot of people know that there are pretty much a few common symptoms of migraines that they may often hear from those of us who have migraines, right? So things like the actual headache, things like nausea, things like light sensitivity or sound sensitivity, I think are pretty common. But there's a lot that is in this article, and I strongly suggest you guys actually go through this because if you do actually go through this, you'll hear a lot more than just what I am going to emphasize here. And I'm going to emphasize the things that I've had, either that sparked from when I was reading this list, something similar, or directly from these particular ones that I experienced too, that may not be something that people really associate with migraine. So these are the things. So, okay. These are the ones that stuck out to me. So many people think that migraines are just the headaches, like the headache actually itself, which is more than a headache, and the nausea, the light sensitivity, the sound sensitivity. But, you know, the one thing that was listed in here was that how bad the legs hurt. Well, yeah, I've had muscle pain and my legs hurting a lot when it comes to migraines, and it's not something that you would expect, but your whole body can hurt quite a bit when you have a migraine. Speech slurring. So this one is particularly frustrating because I have a job where I communicate a lot. And when you communicate a lot, it's frustrating when you have the same things that you say all the time, but people expect you to be able to talk properly. And, you know, it's not just the slurring of the speech, but you may have trouble thinking of the right thing to say. You may be forgetting even though you're in a consistent, like, routine or, you know, a consistent kind of, I don't know, script that you kind of follow. So, like, with me being in the job that I do, you know, you do, being a cashier is very, it's very, there's a script to it, right? To a certain point. And it's frustrating when you get that thing wrong because you do it several hundred times in a shift. So, you know, that's one of the things that can be really frustrating. Or when you're trying to communicate with one of your colleagues and all of a sudden you sound like it's just word salad is obviously really frustrating too. So, yeah, that's can be one of the things that is definitely frustrating. Um, the one thing that I seen in here, so face gets really warm to touch. And I've actually had such a warm face and forehead that I've gone and taken my temperature because I thought I've had a fever. You take the temperature though, and it's either normal or sometimes for me it's even low, like, or lower. It's never like hypothermic, but it's like normal, low end of normal. So that's really frustrating. You feel like not only does your face feel hot, but you feel hot and flushed at the same time. So it's not just the, oh, I'm, you know, my face is feeling hot. But the thing is that, like, for me, even though my face is feeling hot and I'm feeling flushed, there's never a, an issue of, oh, I think I might have a fever, right? Like, because although I've checked for a fever, and I guess what I'm trying to say here is I don't feel chilled at the same time. Like when I have a fever, I feel chilled. But the thing is you can feel chilled when you have a migraine too. So you may think, oh, well, maybe I'm getting a bug, and no, it's a migraine. I hope that made sense. As you can tell, I am a little bit tired tonight, and this is why I generally don't do stuff at night, especially when I have to think. But I'm actually doing okay. It's just, you know, there's definitely some issues with the thought stream right now. The one thing I wrote down that actually wasn't in here, but it kind of involuntary muscle movements kind of brought this up for me. But I noticed with the last storm that came through, like the last big one that we had that dropped this latest amount of snow, caused my eye to twitch really funny. And actually I was getting a little concerned because when I first started experiencing symptoms of the IIH, that's one of the things that I was noticing. Now, it could have been from tiredness, because that happens when I get tired too. But this involuntary eye twitching seems to be a symptom of my migraine. So I'm going to be looking out for that in the future and seeing if it happens again, because it's got to be something related to that, because nothing else really makes all that much sense. The one that was brought up in here was yawning. They talked about that. And yeah, one of the things, if it's in the middle of the day and I'm not feeling tired, but I start yawning uncontrollably, migraine's probably coming. It's a good sign that I'm probably getting a migraine. It may not happen right away, but I start to feel the fatigue a little bit after that, and then the light sensitivity can happen, but it doesn't always happen. So, like, although I have a lot of symptoms of migraine that are common in each migraine attack, not all of the symptoms that I have can actually occur in each migraine attack. So sometimes I'll get light sensitivity and sound sensitivity and fatigue, and other times you get like no light sensitivity, no sound sensitivity, but then you're like eyes twitching and you feel exhausted, and like it's just, although it's consistent between some migraine attacks, it's not always the same. So it's hard to tell until you've kind of passed through it whether it could have been a migraine or not. And it's generally when I combine it with like other things that are going on that I'm like, oh yeah, that actually might be a migraine, right? So it's not until after I found out and gone through the actual cycle and connected the dots that I sometimes go, yeah, that could be a migraine, or the fact that I'm kind of got other factors that might be involved, but I am not really, okay, how do I want to word this? So it's not just connecting the dots afterwards, but maybe I know that there's a storm system coming in. So you kind of expect it, and then combined with all the other factors, you go, yeah, it's probably a migraine, right? So it's really hard to describe, but that's kind of the thing I'm trying to get at here. Okay, the next one is hypersensitivity to sound. That one was kind of mentioned, so I'm not going to get into that, but like the most interesting of sounds can become quite painful, or I guess the most innocent of sounds can become quite painful. So people would often probably think about things like loud children or, you know, high pitched noises or whatever, but it can be something very simple that is overwhelming. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. Another one that was mentioned is exhaustion. So I kind of feel when I'm experiencing a migraine that I'm running in slow motion, like not jogging, running, but that my day is in slow motion. I didn't actually write this down, but things seem to move differently in the moment. And it's like time is different when you have a migraine and you're trying to function than what it's like when you don't have a migraine and you feel relatively baseline. So I never say the word normal. I always use the term baseline, because if I say normal, people will compare their normal to what my normal might be. So I always say I'm at baseline right now, which means for me, my pain is about probably a 3.5, sometimes 4, but there's generally a little bit of head pain, and it's probably mostly because I have my hair up. I like having long hair, and there are many people with, you know, headache problems, whether you've got IIH or whether you've got something like migraine, where a lot of people will have their hair short so that they don't need to put it up because this can actually hurt. And I can tell you that, yeah, it does hurt. Like, I tend to have my hair down a lot on days off because especially when there's other factors that can contribute to migraines, because it can oversensitize to touch and it can make it quite painful. This is one of the other ones that I didn't really write down, but it wasn't really in the article. So hypersensitivity to touch, I think, is another one. and it's not one that people generally think about. But yeah, so the next one is feeling like you can't control your body temperature. So one of the things people might notice with me is that I may look like I'm cold, or like I'll often tell people I'm just like, oh, well, I'm cold, but it's probably just me because of the way that I'm feeling right now. So I think that's really important. And that's kind of all of them. Now, I do suggest that you guys go through this article and you read it. Like I said, it'll be linked in the description after the live is done. I will try and get it up right away, so into the description, so that it's there, and that you guys can take a look at it. I highly suggest that you do, because I think these articles are really helpful, not only for those of you who have migraines or IIH. These apply to IIH actually quite well too, and you can share it with your family, and you can go, okay, this is what I experience when I have a migraine. So, it's not just the headaches, or it's not just the nausea. It's all of this as well, and it can, bring up ideas that you can share too, because you guys know what you go through better than anyone else, and you may be able to find a way that you can communicate with your loved ones about what you experience, so that you can better be accommodated. And for those of you who don't have migraines but have someone in your life who is experiencing migraine, you can go, oh, that's why that person is unable to do all of that today, right? So it adds a level of compassion, I would say. And yeah, so anyways, the next one I want to get into is the differences between episodic and chronic migraine. So a lot of people, when you talk about migraines, probably are thinking more episodic migraine. So episodic migraine is defined as less than 10 headache days per month. But there's two different types. So there's high frequency, and there's a higher frequency episodic migraine and a lower frequency. So lower frequency is less than 10 headache days per month, and a high frequency is 10 to 14. And then there's chronic migraine, which actually has a specific definition. So I just gotta find it here. Let's see, where is it here? So chronic migraine is defined by the American Migraine Association as a headache occurring on 15 or more days per month for more than 3 months, where at least 8 days per month has a feature of a migraine headache. That's the definition of the chronic migraine. And it's a completely different game, or I shouldn't say game, but it's a completely different situation than the episodic migraines. So episodic migraine is probably what you guys think mostly of migraine. So you have a migraine, you start to feel the symptoms, you go through the migraine progression basically, and then you get through it, you go through the post-drone phase, and you're done for a little bit. Well, chronic migraine is a completely different animal. So this article is titled Not So Obvious Differences Between Episodic and Chronic Migraine. So the first one is the line between having a migraine and not having a migraine becomes very difficult to determine. So when I was experiencing migraines before I got put on Aimovig, it was really difficult for me to tell when I was ending and when I was beginning a new migraine attack. You could kind of guess based upon the symptoms, but they really did tend to blend together, and you got to the point where so many sections of time were blocked out because you were in so much pain and you were going through these cycles continuously. And it's a very hard line to determine where and exactly how many headache days you're having and how many migraines you're having, because they blend together. Like, so for example, now I'm able to tell immediately when I might be starting a migraine because I don't have them nearly as much as what I used to. So generally for me, the times that I'm most vulnerable to migraines is weather changing. So spring is actually one of the worst times, despite it being my favorite time of year. Trade-offs are common. So with migraines, it's basically with these migraines, I'm just trying to think about how I want to word this. So, how do I want to word this? Yeah, I don't know how I want to word that. So I'm just going to move on. I just completely lost my train of thought. I am getting tired, I think, is what the problem is. I've been going now for about 26 minutes. So, yeah. Just the basics, though, is that it's very hard to tell when you're going from one migraine to another. I mean, obviously, if you can picture that when you're having multiple migraines and so many of them per month, that it's going to be hard to tell. And now that I'm on Aimovig, it's easier for me to tell when I'm definitely experiencing a migraine because I have a much longer baseline time than what I used to have. And very rarely do I get multiple migraines in a row. You know, between weather changes and when I'm on my period, and depending on how full that bucket is, it can possibly trigger multiple at once, but it's less likely to now, which is nice. Um, Number two is your triggers become a lot less straightforward than they used to be, and or when you have episodic migraine. Now, with the chronic migraine, I think it's obvious actually that your triggers would become less obvious because if you're not able to tell when you're going from one migraine to another, well, how do you know that this particular thing is what triggered that migraine? So, I'll when you go through episodic migraines, I think it's a lot easier to tell. I definitely agree with that. And okay, so like okay, so with triggers, we may not actually determine all of our triggers for migraines. There are some that become quite obvious. So I often talk about my period, weather changing, barometric pressure drops being one of the most common reasons for that. Um, not eating a proper diet, missing out on exercise. I know that one sounds counterintuitive because that can actually sometimes cause headaches for me if I go too hard. But if I keep it consistent and moderate intensity, it actually does help. Um, Keeping my stress and anxiety down, which is where the mindfulness I think is a really, really important thing, which is why I talk about it. Like, there's so many different factors that go into managing my migraines. And when you have these triggers that are beyond your control, such as for me, periods would be one of those because I'm not able to be on birth control with the history of chronic, or not, with the history of IIH, I'm not allowed to be on birth control. That's according to my neurologist. So I'm not able to get rid of my periods, so that means I have to deal with them. And so, yeah, and I'm not allowed to be on hormonal birth control, I think is the factor with that. I don't talk about that very much because I find it quite personal. But if you're watching this and you want me to try and cover that particular story in a more personal way, I might consider it. But I probably won't because I have not really come to terms with that part of management of IIH as some people probably have. It's a sensitive topic with me, and I'm just gonna put that out there right now. Um, so yeah, your triggers are obviously not gonna be as obvious because you're constantly experiencing migraines. Like, you may have an idea of what's causing your migraines, but you it's almost impossible to tell your triggers. Like, you can write them all down when you're going through that, but whether you actually determine whether you're actually having a migraine or not, that's another question. Like, or what's actually triggering them is going to be a hard question to determine. Okay. Treating acute chronic migraine pain can be a complex balancing act. Yeah. So, one of the most common types of migraine treatment options, especially for those people who are dealing with a lot of pain, are triptans, from what I understand. Now, I was never put on triptans, so what I've learned about these are what I've kind of learned after the fact. So, with triptans, from what I understand, is that you can only use so many triptans a month. So, if you're having so many more migraine days a month than what you're allowed to use, you have to become picky about when you actually use them. So, and even when you choose to use one on that particular migraine, it doesn't always work. Now, this is the case for me also too, because I often use like over-the-counter pain medications, but I actually find lately, and I don't know if this is because I'm on the Aimovig and the pathway that it works on, but for me, with migraines now, it's not often that I'm having to manage the pain that comes with it. I don't know if that's a thing, but for me, it's the things like you know, the exhaustion, the maybe the dealing with the chills, and kind of those other symptoms that don't really have a pill that you can take to make them better, I guess is what I'm getting at. So taking pain medications for me, and in my opinion, is completely useless, because it's not really the pain that is bugging me. It's the exhaustion, it's the fatigue, it's the other things that come along with the migraine that is way more than just the head pain, which is basically what is being prevented with the Aimovig. It's kind of a really interesting thing, and I've been tempted to do a video on it actually, but I don't really know how to describe it, which is why I haven't done a video on it. Okay. Oh, they mentioned something called medication overuse headache, and so that's really important. So if you treat with pain medications too frequently, you can actually cause the thing that you're trying to avoid. So I suggest you watch some videos and read some articles on that. I don't really know a whole lot about that, but I do know that medication excuse me, I do know that medication overuse headache is something that can happen. What does it say in here? By treating your pain too frequently, you can create a medication overuse headache, which is likely to prolong and worsen the pain cycle. Yeah. Yeah, and they talk about triptans in this article. I suggest you just read through this. There's a really good description in here. The last thing that they talk about is that it's extremely frightening when your pain doesn't stop. It's not only scary when you have constant pain like that, but it's beyond frustrating to have pain like that as well. So, you're not just dealing with everything else that is going on where I talked about, which the symptoms beyond the actual headache pain, but you're dealing with the emotional frustration of the migraine as well. And I don't think that people understand that it's a lot more than just scary, but it's frustrating to be constantly going through that pain. Like, there's the mental part of the pain triad that I talk about from Dr. Rachel Zoffness, where she talks about the pain is biopsychosocial. So that would be, the frustrating emotional part of dealing with the chronic pain that you're going through. And, I could talk for days on the frustrations of dealing with that. And so Let's see if they've got anything in here. Yeah. I just suggest that you read through this one on the last one, because it's not just, it's frightening to, have that kind of pain. It really is. I've been there. You know, when I was at my worst, have tried to put it out of my memory now, and it's been a long time since I've had pain like that, and that often, because the Amavig has been so successful. I'm so thankful that I found something that at least keeps me functional most of the time. And even when I have days of lower productivity, it is so much better than completely not being able to function at all. Like, so I wouldn't have been able to maintain a job before Amavig, and now, like, the only times I've missed have been due to, actually being sick with something else. And there's been days where, the question is there about whether I should be going to work, because my brain isn't functioning like it should, and I can tell that, and it's extremely frustrating. But is it, to the point where I can't function at all? And the answer is no. Like, I'm very thankful to be able to function as well as I do, but there's definitely times when I struggle, for sure. Um, yeah, I think that's it for this one, guys. So, I hope you have enjoyed this. I know I have. And all of that, I'm so happy that I've gotten the live YouTube app to work and all of that. So, if you have enjoyed this and you want to see more behind the scenes and want to join my community, make sure you're following me on a platform called Locals. So, there I have just showed, actually, in my supporters, my first ever mobile live stream. So I did a live stream test the other day, but I just made it unlisted so that people could, or no, I didn't actually make it unlisted. I made it private on YouTube, but I uploaded the video that I recorded with the screen recording to my Locals page. So if you want to check that out, it's available via the supporters. And yeah, so thanks for joining me, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to share, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell so you guys know when I'm live. And yeah, I'm hoping to be able to do a lot more of these, because being able to sit down and talk about something that's on my mind, I think, is really different, and it's nice to be able to just sit down and talk and all of that. So yeah, thanks for joining me, guys, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.